Welcome to the Music Nut Program. I'm John, and this is an album ranking. On today's show, I will rank the studio albums by a band that I've loved since 1988, and they are my favorite band, Little Feat. This is my introduction to the band. The Let It Roll cassette, which I bought in real time in 1988 after I heard Hate to Lose Your Lovin' on Rock 107 WECX FM out of Scranton, Pennsylvania. On today's show, I will rank the proper studio albums by Little Feat. I will not be ranking Join the Band because I never bought it because I'm not a fan of albums where a band re-records their material and then does the songs with special guests and then they do a bunch of cover songs with those guests. It's never my thing, so I never bought the album. I'm also not going to rank their album from 2024, which is called Sam's Place. Now, I do think quite highly of this album, though. This is a bunch of blues covers, one original called Milkman. That song was written by Sam Clayton, and he sings all the lead vocals on here. This is quite good. I would recommend this if you want to hear Little Feat do a lot of cool blues covers. And I think the band, today's version of the band, was trying to get their feet wet when they record this album, so they would be prepared to do their studio album of original material that came out in 2025. Just to give you a brief overview of Little Feat. Little Feat today. Bill Payne, piano, keyboards, lead vocals, songwriter. It's been there since the beginning, 1969. Kenny Gradney, bass guitar. Sam Clayton, percussion, lead vocals. Kenny and Sam have been with the band since 1973. Fred Tackett, lead vocals, guitar, trumpet, mandolin. He's been with the band since 1988's Let It Roll. Scott Sherrard on guitar and lead vocals. And he's songwriter on their latest album, Strike Up the Band. Tony Leone on drums and lead vocals. Scott Sherrard was originally the musical director for the Allman Brothers Band. He has several solo albums. Tony Leone played drums with several bands, most notably Chris Robinson's Brotherhood. The original Little Feat, first two albums, Lowell George, main songwriter and guitarist. Bill Payne, of course, was on keyboards. Richie Hayward was on drums. Roy Estrada was on bass. And I'll be talking about other members that have come and gone through the band as I rank these albums. Let's get started with number 16. Let me preface this by saying I like all of these albums. I would not rank any of them lower than probably a 5.5. And the top 6 or 7, I probably give like a 9 or a 10. And number 16 is the first album with Sean Murphy on lead vocals for 1995, Ain't Had Enough Fun. Now, this album was their first on an independent label. I think there's a lot of good songs on here, and some of the songs are, decent. They sound good while they're playing, but they don't really leave a strong impression on you. And I still got that feeling when I revisited the album this week. My favorite songs: Cadillac Hotel, Romance Without Finance, Big Bang Theory. That one is a killer. That's a great duet between Sean Murphy and Paul Barrere on the lead vocals. That's very driving and very positive. Cajun Rage is killer. That is excellent. Very New Orleans sound on that. Title song is very good. That's a Pretty Good Love is very cool. I love the groove on All That You Could Stand. Rest of the songs like Driving Blind, Shaky Town, Rock and Roll Every Night, Borderline Blues, they're decent. Not great. But again, there's still a lot to really like on this album. My number 16 is Ain't Had Enough Fun, 1995. And number 15 is the band's seventh studio album. This was more of a contractual obligation album. This was the last album to feature Lowell George on lead vocals. He would die later in the year 1979 when this was released. This is Down on the Farm. Now, I've never been really high on this album. A lot of the reason is that I wasn't fond of the production. I think it took away the grit of Little Feat. And I think some of these songs just sound too safe because of that production. They're starting to sound more like the Doobie Brothers here. Michael McDonald version of Doobie Brothers, particularly on Wake Up Dreaming. But there are a lot of good songs. Down on the Farm, the title song's very good. It's been a concert staple for the band for this day. When Paul Barrere was still leading the band, they would often do 6 Feet of Snow live. That's still very, very cool. Perfect Imperfection was a song I was never really into until I saw the latest version of Little Feat do it live, and now I like it. Kokomo's pretty cool. So many other songs like Be One Now, Straight from the Heart, Front Page News, Feel the Groove, they have this safeness. They feel really safe. They just don't really stand out like they're going through the motions a little bit. It feels like a contractual obligation album at many times, but I do quite like the first 4 songs on here a lot. My number 15 is 1979's Down on the Farm. My number 14 is the third and final album to feature Craig Fuller on lead vocals. This is from 1991. This is Shake Me Up. Now, this album, I have like a hot and cold relationship with because I love that grind of the opening track, Spider's Blues. Shake Me Up is a very strong track. It kind of feels like a sequel to the song Let It Roll, which I'll be talking about that album later. Things Happen is pretty catchy. It's a little more laid back. Mojo Haiku is a great Craig song on here, and it's my favorite track. But some of these songs in the middle, I think they're just too safe. Like Adult Contempo, Little Feat. Like Loved and Lied To, Don't Try So Hard, Living on Dreams. Boombox Car and Fast and Furious are okay, but they sound like lesser versions of better Little Feat songs. End Strong, Clownin', I think is very cool, and I like the emotional Down in Flames a lot. So, like half of this album I like quite a bit, half of it is okay to me. My number 14 is 1991's Shake Me Up. And number 13 is their album from 2003. This is Kicking It at the Barn. Now, this has a very warm production to it, which I really like. This, I believe, was recorded in Fred Tackett's barn. Now, my feelings on this album are a little similar to Shake Me Up, but there's more that I like on here. Let me just get this one out of the way. My favorite song on here, far and away, is Stomp, which is this killer 8-minute instrumental and a masterclass in drumming by Richie Hayward. This is a Bill Payne song. This just destroys. I wish I saw them do this live. I don't know if they ever did it live or not, maybe very few times, but this is wicked. Excellent track. Not far behind is their opening track, Night on the Town, and Heaven Forsaken, which was the single, is excellent. Got this great gospel feel, great vocal from Paul Barrere on it. I'd Be Lying is Sean Murphy lead vocal, her only lead vocal on this album. This was the fourth and final album to have Sean Murphy on lead vocals. Other cool tracks on here. In a Town Like This is a Fred Tackett song that works very well. Walkin' is Two's very mellow, but it's very memorable. Corazones de Simbros, if I'm saying it correctly, very Los Lobos, but I love Los Lobos, so I still dig it. Some of these other songs, they're too mellow for their own good, in my opinion. And when you have a long album and you have these mellow 7, 8 minute songs, I think it really slows down the momentum. It doesn't really grab you. Like Fighting the Mosquito Wars. Why don't it look like the way that it talk? I do what the telephone tells me to do is a good jam, and it works well when they play it live. They would play it as part of a like a Dixie Chicken medley when they do it live. It works good for about 3 minutes on record, but this is like 7, 8 minutes. Bill Rivers Blues, I think, is a decent closer. So there's still a lot that I like on here. And I certainly love the production. My number 13 is 2003's Kicking It at the Barn. My number 12 is probably a contrarian opinion. A lot of people wouldn't rank a album from the Lowell George era that was not a contractual obligation album at number 12. But I've never been high on the last record album, although there is a lot on it that I do like, and you got some classics here. I'm not fond of Lowell's production on it. I think it just reins them in a little bit too much. But what is good on here is great. I love All That You Dream. I think that's one of the best Paul Barrere songs. Long Distance Love is a ballad that I wasn't a big fan of when I was younger, and now I think it's so elegant. I love it. One Love Stand is another song that's really grown on me. Another great Lowell song. Day or Night is cool. This is the band going more into the jazz fusion sound. I think those keyboards and synthesizers dated a little bit. It's okay. It's much better on Waiting for Columbus. Down Below the Borderline, I was never really into. Mercenary Territory is one of my favorite Little Feat songs, period. But this sounds like a blueprint. If you hear it on Waiting for Columbus with the Tower of Power horns, is given this whole new life. Think about that Waiting for Columbus album. It took some of the songs that weren't recorded very, very well and brought them new life, like Kiss Alive 1 would do for the first 3 Kiss studio albums. Somebody's Leaving is a good song by Bill. It never felt like Little Feat to me, but I like it. At one point, I wasn't into it at all. I like it more now. I like this album more than I used to. Romance Dance, I was never high on as an opener. It's okay. But what I really love, All That You Dream, Mercenary Territory, Long Distance Love, love those songs to death. My number 12 is from 1975, the last record album. Number 11 is the second album from the Sean Murphy era. This is from 1998. Under the Radar. Now, like all the other albums with Sean, this is pretty long. Most of it is very good, though. It a little bit at the end, it slows down, but Home Ground is a wicked opener. Paul does the lead on that. Eden's Wall is a great song from Bill on here. Distant Thunder. Sean sounds wonderful on this track. This is a very mid-tempo track. Hoy Hoy is really cool. The title song is more reflective. That's a Bill song. Veil of Tears. I love Sean's vocal on that. Locomotive is one of those great high-paced songs that you have from Paul. He did when Paul kind of took over leadership of the band with Let It Roll Forward. He wrote cool songs he had cool songs like this that were on every album. This is no exception. Ferocious Morning sounds like it sounds like Lafayette Railroad Part 2. Always dug it. Now, Falling Through the Worlds, I Got Happiness, they're okay. They slow the album down to me. Blues Don't Tell It All is a little better. Loved Closer, Calling the Children Home. That's excellent. Even if it's 8 minutes at the end, that groove can go on for another 5 minutes. I'd still dig it. It's awesome. Love the horns on there. It's excellent. My number 11 is Under the Radar from 1998. My number 10 is from 2012, and this was their first album in 9 years. Their only album to feature Gabriel Ford on drums. This is Rooster Rag. Now we've got Robert Hunter, who wrote many songs with Jerry Garcia in the Grateful Dead, co-writing some songs here with Bill Payne. Songs on here are very, very good. And what's really cool about this album is Fred Tack is more involved. Fred Tackett's like the band's secret weapon. It just doesn't seem like he gets enough of the spotlight. But here you get it because he's handling the lead vocals here on One Breath at a Time, which kicks ass. That song is awesome. Tattoo Girl, which is more mellow, that has him, as well as Church Falling Down. Church Falling Down's really cool. Candyman Blues, that opens the album. This is a song that the band would pair up with Down on the Farm when they play live, when Fred was still with them, and it always went over well. The title song is very, very strong, as is Salome. These are both Bill Payne, Robert Hunter co-writes on here. Way Down Under's another cool song written by Bill and Robert. Jamaica Will Break Your Heart is very cool. Fred wrote that, but Paul sings it. Mellow Down Easy is the cover of the Willie Dixon song that the band would later do on Sam's Place. And on here, you got Sam doing the lead vocal as well. Rag Top Down's very good. Blues Keep Coming. Everything on here is very good. This is my number 10, Rooster Rag from 2012. My number 9 is the band's latest album from 2025, Strike Up the Band. First album with Scott Sherrard and Tony Leone in the band. They both sing vocals on here. Scott more often. Scott's taken over the Paul Barrere part of the band. He plays wicked slide guitar, great singer, songwriter. This may go higher in my little feet rankings when as time goes on. What are my favorites? Too High to Cut My Hair, which was the first video. That is fantastic. Love Midnight Flight. Love Bayou Mama. Bill Payne track that really, really kicks ass. Bluegrass Pines, another great song that Bill wrote on here. We got guest spots from Molly Tuttle, Larry Campbell, and Teresa Williams. A lot of drama on that song. Really, really cool. We got some excellent tracks in the second half of the album. Disappearing Ink, I think, is wonderful. Very strong chorus on it. Love and Life Never Fear. This is a Fred Tackett song, but Scott does the lead vocal. Very, very cool. The opener, 4 Days of Heaven, 3 Days of Work, is very good. The horns on here are excellent. I mean, and they add a lot to these tracks. When Hearts Fall is a cool ballad from Bill. The title song is more reflective, and I've said this on the review I did for the Strike Up the Band album. It's interesting what the band does with their cover songs, because sometimes it'll be very rollicking, like Dixie Chicken or Feet Don't Fail Me Now. Then they'll go more into this Jimmy Buffett reggae feel, like Time Loves a Hero, and then they'll give us something that like kicks ass and takes names, like Let It Roll and Shake Me Up and Chinese Work songs. But for the title song for Strike Up the Band, it's really, really mellow and reflective, and it's a very cool tune. New Orleans Cries When She Sings is a wonderful closer. It starts as a piano ballad, then it gets very New Orleans, and then it ends on a very somber note with Bill leading the way. Very, very good. Love this album. This is my number 9 by Little Feat, 2025's Strike Up the Band. Number 8, an album I didn't have ranked this high over the years, but it's grown on me. And the reason I wasn't high on this album originally is because it had too many cover songs for my tastes. But I'll tell you what, the originals on here are excellent. Chinese work songs from 2000 is my number 8. We got covers of Rag Mama Rag, which opens the album by the band Rag Mama Rag, Sample a Jar by Fish, Give Me a Stone by the Hooters, and we closed the album with a cover of Bob Dylan's It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry. The first three songs they talked about, they play it straight. They slow down, It Takes a Lot to Laugh, to this crawling blues, and Sean sings the hell out of it. They like a show-stopping performance. They make this song already a classic in its own right, their own. I love what Little Feat did here. Now, the originals kill. Bed of Roses, kick-ass track. Sean leading the way, very fast-paced, great chorus on that. Just Another Sunday, I've always loved. That's a Bill Payne song, but Bill and Sean handle a vocal on it. And it's very cool, very reflective, and then it gets very New Orleans until the song ends. It's just really cool. I love Marginal Creatures. It's a great Paul song, as is the title song, which I alluded to before, which just kicks ass. Eula is a very cool mid-tempo song from Paul. Rio Esperanza is very, very good. Tattoo Heart's very, very good. Everything on here I like. I used to knock it because it had too many covers, but you know what? Now I enjoy it. I can I can appreciate what they did with the Bob Dylan song, and they do a great job on the other covers, and the originals are excellent. My number 8 is Chinese Work Songs from 2000. And this is the third album where Sean Murphy is a lead vocalist. My number 7 is the album that got me into Little Feat. But here's the CD. This is Let It Roll from 1988, which is considered their comeback album. This will give the band a gold album in the United States. Will give us 4 big hits on the album-oriented rock charts, including the aforementioned Hate to Lose Your Lovin'. The title song, as I alluded to earlier, amazing. It's been in movies. I've heard it in commercials. It's one of the more enduring Little Feat songs. They still do it live now and then. It just takes you for a ride, and I love it. One Clear Moment is a great song from Craig Fuller, and this is the first album of Craig Fuller. Craig really brought a lot to this album and the next album I'm about to talk about. We have Long Time Till I Get Over You, which was the fourth song to hit the AOR charts. One Clear Moment was the third one. And this is a nice mid-tempo track with a wonderful chorus on it. I used to think this album had too many ballads on it. I thought it was too adult contempo, and I used to rank it a little lower than I would now. But I really love Hanging On to the Good Times. I didn't back in the day, but now that chorus is excellent. I love the delivery on it. Listen to Your Heart, I don't love. Voices on the Wind, I think is a wonderful ballad that ends the album. Changing Luck, another song that really grew on me over the years. This was one where, to me, it never took hold of me for a long time, and now I hear it, and hear the greatness in this song and hear the groove and the different little hooks they have in here. Business as Usual is another wonderful track, as is Cajun Girl. My number 7 is 1988's Let It Roll. My number 6 is an album more often than not, I think is superior to Let It Roll as I do today. Sometimes I rank Let It Roll a little higher. And I think this album always I got a bad shake. It just gets a bad rap, and I don't think it deserves it. My number 6 is 1990's Representing the Mambo. I think this album is very strong. And I've read some scathing reviews like this is the album that proved that Little Feat shouldn't be carrying the name. No, come on. Yeah, they're a different band now that Lowell isn't there, but they're still a great band. You got great songs on here from both Paul and Craig. You have Texas Twister has a similar vibe like Let It Roll. and it's a wonderful opener. Daily Grind is the cool mid-tempo track with great hooks in it, like One Clear Moment was for Let It Roll. The title song, Bill writes a gem here. This is very, very cool. And he has another gem at the end of the album, which I'll get into. Woman in Love, another cool New Orleans track from Paul. Rad Gumbo is very fast-paced and very, very catchy. Great chorus on it. This song was in the movie Roadhouse in 89 before, and the soundtrack, before it would be released on the Representing the Mambo album in 1990. That's Her, She's Mine, another cool song by Paul with some great slide guitar on here. Feelings All Gone is another cool Craig song, more mid-tempo, another great chorus. Those feels steer you wrong sometimes, more of a country feel. The ingenue is really, really cool. This is a Paul vocal, but it's very kinetic, very, very fast paced, very cool, but they do slow it down at times. It's kind of progressive, I would say, for a Little Feat song. And I always love Silver Screen that ends the album. What a wonderful ballad by Bill. And I love the backing vocals on here. I love that guitar line from Paul on here as well. It's a great hook on it. So yeah, I think this album deserves a little more love than it gets. My number 6 is 1990s Representing the Mambo. Number 5 is my album from, it's a Little Feat album from 1977. This is Time Loves a Hero. Time Loves a Hero. The band is going in some different directions. We have Paul and Bill writing more, where Lowell George was the main songwriter on the early albums. High Roller is a wonderful vocal from Lowell, but that's Paul that wrote that song, and those horns on there sound magnificent. Title song is a classic Little Feat song. It does feel very reggae, very Jimmy Buffett, very cool. Rocket My Pockets, it's okay. It's not up to Lowell's standards, but it sounds a lot better on Waiting for Columbus with the Tower Power horns. Day at the Dog Races is one of the more divisive songs, perhaps the most divisive song that Little Feat ever recorded. I love it. I've always loved it. It shows you the great musicians that were Little Feat. They're going right into fusion here and doing a very good job of it. Part of me wished they went more into this direction, but they would break up for 9 years on the next album after this. Old Folks Boogie. This is a Bill song where you hear Michael McDonald's unmistakable backing vocals there. You hear Michael, you know it's him. This has a very Doobie Brothers feel, but it still feels like a Little Feat song to me. It's very cool. Very good bridge on this song. I love my bridges. New Delhi Freight Train. This is another strong track, more reflective. Lowell does a great job singing this. Keeping Up with the Joneses is decent. Missing You is an acoustic ball song, which I like a lot. Decent closer. It does run out of steam a little bit at the end. I think the first 7 songs are Rockin' My Pockets, okay. Oh, and Old Folks Boogie. How can I not mention that one? Old Folks Boogie is fantastic. What a chorus on that. One of the finest Paul songs ever, in my opinion. My number 5 is 1977's Time Loves a Hero. Now, last 4 albums I'm going to talk about. My top 4 are the first 4. What order will they be in? Let's see. The number 4 is the band's self-titled debut from 1971, Little Feats. This doesn't really sound like a Little Feat album. And we had Roy Estrada here on bass on this album, as well as another album I'll talk about. This is like the closest thing Little Feat did to a singer-songwriter album, and Lowell George writes nearly everything on here. They don't play too many of these songs live either, but you take this as a piece, this is a wonderful album. plenty of slide guitar in here. We just don't have that New Orleans groove that we had before. Snakes on Everything is a wicked opener. Strawberry Flats is very, very cool. Bill Payne's piano really shines on this. Truck Stop Girl is a cool country ballad. It's very cool. And Brides of Jesus plays like a mellow folk song, but it's got those strings in there. And that's where I'm getting the singer-songwriter vibe from. It sounds like something one of these great singer-songwriters from that era would have done with those kind of arrangements and that background on it. We got the original track of Willin', which sounds more like a blueprint to the more famous version, but this is more, this is definitely more country, more rustic, I would say. Very cool. Hamburger Midnight's is a strong rocker. And then we go into 44 Blues, How Many More Years, which is like a twofer. Sounds like an old school blues. Excellent. Cracking Your Door. I've been to one. Very wicked, cool tunes. Taking My Time is a reflective ballad. Lowell sings very well on this. And Crazy Captain Gunboat Willie's. It's a little different. It's a little quirky. Just sounds very quirky. Like Little Feat were always a little quirky, but this is them at their quirkiest, I guess you could say. They're finding their way. Lowell's leading the way, but you can tell it's just a Lowell album because there's great contributions from everybody else here. But it feels so much like a Lowell album with the slide up front and his vocals all over the place. And it is eclectic, but more rustic, as I said. It's different. You got maybe a little over a half hour long. You don't hear these songs live. I heard him do Truck Stop Girl one night. I was shocked. I've seen him 14 times. And when Paul was with the band, they once did Truck Stop Girl, and I was like, holy shit, I can't believe they did that. But you've never heard this album. Give it a shot. This is very, very good. It's just a little different. My number 4 is Little Feat's self-titled debut from 1971. Number 3 is Feats Don't Fail Me Now from 1974. Now, this album probably has more of the more famous Little Feat songs than any of the others. Some of these songs would be on Waiting for Columbus, and then if you bought the 2-disc version, you heard several more of these. Rock and Roll Doctor is a wonderful opener. This is what Lowell George would be known as for the next few years after this. Oh, Atlanta is a Little Feat classic, one of their finest tracks, perhaps the finest Bill track. Excellent rollicking track with a wonderful chorus and bridge on it. Skin It Back. This is the first song we get from Paul Barrere and Little Feat. This is when Paul would join the band, along with Kenny Gradney and Sam Clayton. This is when Roy would leave and the band would go from a quartet to a sextet, a 6-piece. Skin It Back. Excellent. What a groove on that. This is a song they would often play as a twofer with Spanish Moon from this album. They would do those two live, and they just fit like peanut butter and jelly live. Spanish Moon, what a groove on that. What a bass line from Kenny Gradney. Excellent. Great story song from Lowell here. Wonderful. Down the Road, that slide guitar is shining like the sun on here. This is a really cool tune. Now, the title song is very cool, very rollicking. It sounds a little like a blueprint. I mean, it takes on a whole new life on Waiting for Columbus. And when you see them live, it sounds amazing. But title song is very cool. The Fan is a great deep cut. And it has this great groove to it again. Not very high on the vocals. Very sparse, but it's just about that killer groove. And this is a very cool track. I'm not fond of them ending the album with a medley of 2 songs from Sailing Shoes, but we got them here in Cold, Cold, Cold Tripe Bass Boogie. I would have liked to heard one or two more originals because all the other originals on here are great. But as it is, it's still my number three. It's a classic in the Little Feat canon. They still hit a lot of these songs this day. And it is 1974's Feats Don't Fail Me Now. My number two is the album where Little Feat will go on the map. This is when they would become a septet or sextet. It wasn't on Feats Don't Fail Me Now. It was on this album. Dixie Chicken from 1973. Now, the title song is the most famous Little Feat song. Many artists have covered it, most notably country music superstar Garth Brooks. If you've never seen him live, go see him. He will destroy you. And this is coming from someone who's not a big Garth Brooks fan. But boy, does he bring it. Anyway, he covered Dixie Chicken. That song and Fat Man in a Bathtub would be on Waiting for Columbus. You would think Waiting for Columbus, this wouldn't be a classic album, but that would not give you a good representation. So many great songs on here. More often than not, this is a very mellow album. This isn't as upbeat as Feats Don't Fail Me Now. This isn't as rockin' or bluesy as the next album I'm about to talk about, which is my number one. But this is another great representation of Lowell George's wonderful songwriting. Two Trains has this really cool groove to it. Excellent chorus. Roll 'em easy, very, very mellow and very cool. We get a cover of Alan Toussaint's On Your Way Down, and it is wonderful. Very dramatic reading of that. Kiss It Off is very cool. Fool Yourself is a Fred Taggart composition. Fred would not join the band for another 15 years, but this is one of the highlights of the album. Very, very cool. Walking All Night is an excellent track, and it's got a great chorus, very rocking. Juliet is a wonderful ballad, and the guitar playing on this sizzles. And then we got that great instrumental at the end with Lafayette Railroad. Wonderful. This is a co right between Bill and Lowell. This is a classic album, a 10 out of 10 for me any day of the week. My number two is Dixie Chicken from 1973. Last but certainly not least, from 1972 is Little Feat's second album, Sailing Shoes. Now, this is an album they still hit hard live to this day, well represented on Waiting for Columbus and their subsequent live albums. And they got a ton of them. Waiting for Columbus is the best known, but don't sleep on those other ones, whether they're newer live albums or archival releases. Easy to Slip is a very cool opener with a country feel to it that Bob Weir and Rob Wasserman would later cover on a live album for the late 90s, which is really good. Cold, 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 what a slow burning blues this is. Very nasty. That slide sounds so awesome on here. Trouble. This is more of a country ballad. 2 minutes and 15 seconds, just comes in, kicks your butt and takes and leaves. But very cool song. Very memorable. Tripe Bass Boogie. This would often be how the Dixie Chicken song would end live. They would do Dixie Chicken and they would segue into Tripe Bass Boogie. This is a Richie Hayward composition. This kicks ass and takes names. Willin', the more famous version of that song, which is probably their most famous song next to Dixie Chicken, is here. This is excellent. A political blues, also on Waiting for Columbus. The slide playing on here. Lowell's vocal, tremendous. The band's interplay is very strong. Van Halen would cover this as the last track, or the unwritten track, or the untitled track on their 1988 album, Oh You Wait One Too. Teenage Nervous Breakdown wicked Jerry Lee Lewis like rock and roll and kicks ass. Kicked even more ass when they do it live with Lowell. Got No Shadow is a very cool tune. Cat Fever's this slow blues with that piano. Very classy from Bill Payne on here. Very, very strong. Texas Rose Cafe. This is another cool closer because it starts out slower and then it gets very progressive, goes into these different little twists and turns musically, and then it goes back to its main theme, which is a bit of a New Orleans feeling that we would get when we go into Dixie Chicken. Wonderful way to end this album. This was produced by Ted Templeman, and this album, recording wise, sound wise, is aged very, very well. Also, this is my number one, 1972 Sailing Shoes. Now, let me give you a recap here. Okay, number 16 is 1995's Ain't Had Enough Fun. Number 15 is Down on the Farm from 1979. My number 14 is Shake Me Up from 1991. My number 13 is, I recorded this before, and this exact album cover fell on the floor. Just to let you know that. My number 13 is Kicking It at the Barn from 2003. Number 12 is the Last Record album from 1975. My number 11 is Under the Radar from 1998. My number 10 is Rooster Rag from 2012. My number 9 is the band's latest album from 2025, Strike Up the Band. My number 8 is from 2000, and this is Chinese Work Songs. Number 7 is my introduction little feat, 1988's Let It Roll. My number 6 is their follow-up album from 1990, Representing the Mambo. Number 5 is their 1977 album, Time Loves a Hero. Number 4 is the band's self-titled album from 1971, Little Feats. Number 3 is the band's 4th album from 1974, Feats Don't Fail Me Now. Number 2 is the band's 3rd album from 1973, Dixie Chicken. And number 1, the band's 2nd album from 1972, Sailing Shoes. So, how would you rank these albums? Do you know the band Little Feats? And if you do, what are your favorite songs by them? What are your favorite albums? Are you just a fan of the Lowell George era? I know a lot of people who just love the Lowell George stuff, and then they stopped. Do you love the comeback albums they made with Craig Fuller on lead vocals? What do you think of the Sean Murphy era? And what do you think of the band today? Please let me know in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. 1988. I heard Hate to Lose Your Lovin'. And I had a friend who lived across the street from me when I was growing up until 1987. And they moved over to the next town, the family did, in 1988. And he introduced me to a lot of cool music, but it was mostly heavy metal. Like, he got me into Metal Church, he got me into Megadeth, but if there was something a little different, I'd ask him about that band. So I heard Hate to Lose Your Lovin', and I talked to my friend John Lutz. What do you know about Little Feat? I said. At that time, he was 21, I'm 17. And he goes, well, they're different. Well, how are they different? I don't know. They're hard to describe, but you'd like them. Truer words were never said in my life. So thank you, John Lutz. Thank you, Ollie's Restaurant. Thank you, Little Feet. Thank you all for watching. Do what you love, and I'll talk to you soon.